4.
Hey guys, we're back again. Another Brown Sound Quest video, and this one is, if you haven't guessed by now, Women and Children First. This one tricked me. I thought this was going to be a fairly easy, straightforward Brown Sound Quest on this one. It has turned out to be a monumental task. There has been a lot of stuff going on this album. I mean, there's the Wurlitzer piano for Cradle Will Rock. There's the acoustic guitars in both Take Your Whiskey Home and the title track, Women and Children First. And then there's the tape slowdown trick at the end to Take Your Whiskey Home, and then the reverse recording on Tora Tora, the explosion sound, which has been a complete mystery, and I think I figured it out, which I'll show you here. So it's just really been a quest, a true quest on my part. And I apologize, it's taken me a while to put it all together, but there really has. There's been a ton of stuff to decipher and figure out. And again, my disclaimer, this is all speculation on my part, but I go through it in depth, and I experiment, and I theorize, and I record, and I listen back, and that doesn't work, and I record, and I listen back, and that process goes over and over and over, hundreds, probably 1,000 times or more on a lot of these things. So again, speculation, but I think I'm awfully darn close. Women and Children First used a bunch of guitars, and I'll kind of detail that as I show you each guitar that I'm using here to play these songs. And my other disclaimer is, this isn't a Van Halen clinic on how to play the music. I'll play it as close as I can. Again, I didn't sit down and meticulously learn every part. I mean, for instance, Loss of Control. I mean, just that staccato Morse code type low E thing. He switches the pattern on that seemingly at random. I think he probably never played it the same way twice, and he just plays to Al's punches and kicks when they come in. So I mean, all that stuff is, and everything about this album, playing wise, you can tell these guys are finely tuned. They've been on tour forever, and they're coming in hot, and everything is seat of the pants, and that's what makes this album so fun. Everything is just loose and wild, but in its own way, it's really tight, and it just kind of falls together happenstance. You know, the break coming out of Romeo Delight, the whole Fools thing is just loose and crazy and cool. So in Loss of Control, I mean, that's in a whole other world. But anyway, let's get to it. I've got what I'm going to show you right here is the Wurlitzer 200A. That's what we opened the Cradle Will Rock thing with, where you're just pounding on the keys through the flanger. That's run through my guitar rig, no EQ changes, everything is the same. There's no special treatment given to it. There's an echo added to it. You can hear the repeat, and that's kind of and there's reverb and everything, but it's pretty much that. And then what I'm going to show you here is just, and I'm not a keyboard player, so don't slag me on that. And finally, before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't thank a few people. I wanted to thank Greg from Halen Guitar for putting up with my ridiculous requests on a lot of these pickup wines. He builds me anything without complaining whatsoever. So that's cool. Thank you, Greg. Luis Costa, Fairfield Guitar Company. He's doing these fabulous reproduction Eddie Van Halen straps. This is the 78 Bomber strap. He sent this to me, and I just think the quality, everything, this thing is so cool. I love it. Thank you, Luis. The guys that I send, I do these clips, and I have these wild theories, and I bounce these sound ideas off of everybody. So Alan Garber, Stan Muka, Matt Lefevre, Kurt Mosinger, Mike Himmel, Johnny Bean and Kurt, thanks for having me on the show. Dave and Mark at Tone Talk. All you guys are great. Love being in the community. I think this is a lot of fun, and that's it. So let's get to it. All right, this is my Bumblebee that I'm using in this video. It consists of and made out of. This is a Lock Custom Guitars Northern Ash body. Warmoth, 1 3/4 inch wide, maple slab fingerboard, bird's eye maple, fingerboard and neck are bird's eye maple. It's a pretty neck. Schaller tuners. Floyd trem. Now, if I was sticking to original specs and everything, this should be a non-fine tuning Floyd, but it's not. I'm not going to go. It's a functional guitar. It gets played live every now and then, so the non-fine tuner Floyd is not handy for that. 500K pot. In the control cavity, there is, per the original Bumblebee, there is a tone control in it. I have a fat block on the Floyd Rose. About the pickup. So I cycled all kinds of different pickups through this guitar. We know that at the end of the 79 tour, or we don't know, but if you look at the pictures, I mean, we don't know what the guitar was or what, but if you look at the pictures, It's a DiMarzio. It's got the holes in the tops of the bobbins. So you can always recognize that as a DiMarzio pickup. The Mighty Mites did not have those in the bobbins. So it was a DiMarzio. Now, whether or not he still had the ceramic magnet in it or not, I don't know. Whether or not it was a Super 2, which is like a 9K, 8.7 or 9K wind with a ceramic magnet, or the Super D, which, you know, what is it, 13 to 14K with a ceramic magnet. So we don't know. He might have replaced the magnet on it. I don't know. End of the 79 tour. All right. And then you see it again in the guitar on the 1980 tour, but you see it in the guitar after, I think it's April. Now, I did this through a photo research thing because I tried to get a sound out of the Super Distortion. And I cycled the Super Distortion, I cycled the Halen B, which is a copy of the Mighty Mite 1400, the 9K wind Mighty Mite, except this one has an A8 magnet in it, because that's what some legend says. I tried that one. That was a little bit better than the Super Distortion for getting more tones out of the guitar. I tried Burstbucker. I tried a 57 Classic, and none of them quite had it. So I'm looking at a website. It's called, I think it's the mightyvanhalen.net, and there's a series of pictures from the Pink Pop Festival in right around April of, I think it's April of '80, somewhere in that area. And sure enough, there's a black and cream bobbin pickup in the Bumblebee live. And I'm thinking, well, that might be telling me something. So I said, you know, that's why I tried the JB. I thought, well, maybe he's got a JB in here. And this is the coveted JB. The JBJ, this one's from the 80s, this one's from the early 80s, like 82 I think I got this pickup. So this is right from close to the same era. That didn't work. None of the pickups sounded right. So this one, I thought, well, what if it's just a PAF, another PAF that he pulled out of something? And this is a 59, a Duncan 59 neck pickup. So it comes in at about 7.65K, and it's bright. That would explain the tone knob, because when I'm recording on this for this video, and to match the tone knob in here is cranked back about a quarter turn. I mean, it's not drastic, it just takes a little bit of the edge off of this, but this still has a lot of grit. I mean, it has the kind of grit and clarity that you need for this stuff. So that's what I ended up going with. That's the Bumblebee, ash maple, 59, Floyd Rose, and straightforward guitar. Gets used for Everybody Wants Some, because that was obviously all the full slack dives with the Floyd Rose. There's another full slack dive that my buddy Alan Garber put in front of me. He sent me a super volume cranked at the very end of the Fools intro. He does a full dive on the G string, and I had never heard that before. So, because I was thinking it wasn't this guitar on the beginning of Fools, but it is. So it's this guitar on the beginning of Fools, just the first part of the intro. And then of course it gets used again in Tora Tora, because he's doing all the full slack string dives on the reverse part of Tora Tora. I call that Tora Tora Part 1, because then Part 2, and then it goes into Loss of Control. So that's it. Let me know if you have questions on this one. All right, so here's the amplifier. It's the same one I've always been using. I've got every knob on 10, except for volume 2. We're plugged into the top left input. I'm using the same configuration. That's not to say I have not struggled on Women and Children First, trying to figure out what exactly was going on with the sound, with the tone of this album. It's different. It's way different. And a lot of that has to do with the guitars that were used. A lot of that has to do with how it was EQ'd post in what they did in the studio, and which I'm going to show you. But essentially, I'm running the same rig. I've had the amp apart half of this video trying to figure out. I've been tweaking bias. I've been doing this and that. If anything, I'm right back to my normal bias settings. It's not overly hot. It's just like a 70% dissipation on the bias. Variac is running at 73.5 volts AC. That's about where this amp sounds good. That's the sweet spot for this amp. Anywhere between 68 volts and about 77 volts to me is where this amp sounds the best. I've got the 6 CA7s in it. I got all 4 of them in. I've got the 8 ohm tap selected on here, but I'm running only one 4x12. I always do that though. Pedal board, here's going to be the signal chain. The guitar goes straight in to the MXR flanger. That one's vintage. Then from the MXR flanger, it goes right into the MXR Phase 90, that EVH one. That's a new addition because my old script logo quit working. It needs a repair. This one doesn't sound bad. I like my old one better, but they're close enough. This foot switch is the on-off for the Echoplex. So from the Phase 90, we go into the Echoplex. And the Echoplex is required on this album. It adds this low mid EQ bump kind of grind. It's not like it's a boost, but it's adding a character to it that it's hard to get this women and children first sound without the Echoplex. And from the Echoplex, it goes straight into the input of the Marshall amp. The cabinet I'm using is my usual old peeled 4x12. It's got greenbacks. I almost always run 2 mics on the cabinet. Even though they're both greenbacks, they both sound different, so therefore it tends to thicken up the sound. It helps you get a thicker sound right out of the gate. That cabinet, if you can probably see the aluminum dust caps in the top 2 positions, those are the JBL D120s, but because the cabinet is close mic'd, you don't hear those at all coming through on the SM57s. You just hear it in the room, and I'm not doing any room mics this time because it's just, this room just doesn't sound good enough for that. So I'm using a Sunset Sound plugin to get a little bit of a room effect. But that's about it as far as the rig. Ask me questions. Like I said, it's pretty much the same as I've been doing for most of these videos. There, no tweaks, no nothing. It's just, like I said, I experimented with the bias. I experimented with tubes. I had EL34s in the amp. I was going back and forth, but that's where we are. So 6 CA7s, old Sylvanias for the preamp tubes, 12AX7s. Let me know if you have any questions. That's what's making all the noise for it. And here it is, the Destroyer. This is like the main guitar on this album. It gets used for Fools, Romeo Delight, Take Your Whiskey Home, In a Simple Rhyme. I mean, just about everything that the Bumblebee doesn't get used on, and the Frankenstein. So this is like the main guitar on the album. This is representing the one that Ed borrowed from Chris Holmes, which was a Destroyer just like the Shark, except it didn't. Ed always said he ruined the Shark when he took the Shark's mouth out of the Destroyer and cut the little horn off down here. And he said it lost a lot of tone. I detailed this guitar. This is my Greco. I detailed this guitar in the Van Halen 1 video that I did, the Brown Sound video for Van Halen 1. But it's the Greco, same as the Ibanez Destroyer. This one's it's like a 76 model. It's Japanese Senwood, rosewood fingerboard, obviously, Schaller tuners, etc., etc. All right, so about what Ed did to the Chris Holmes Destroyer. Now, the Chris Holmes Destroyer originally had, when Ed borrowed it, from the pictures that we saw of it before, we think it had DiMarzio pickups in it. They're double creams, and I don't think the Maxons were double creams at that point. The covers were off. We see a picture, and again, those studio pictures for the Women and Children First sessions are set up after the fact. We see Ed playing the 59 Les Paul with the bridge pickup removed. We see the Destroyer, the Chris Holmes Destroyer, leaning against the 412 speaker cabinet, missing the neck pickup, and it has a covered pickup in the rear. So the immediate assumption that I had was, okay, he pulled the PAF out of the 59 and put it in to the Destroyer. I don't think that would... I tried that. So I took out of... I've got multiple PAF style, PAF accurate reproductions in various degrees of that. I tried a Seth Lover Alnico 2. I tried a Seth Lover with an Alnico 5. I tried a Burstbucker. I tried another 57 Classic. I tried a Duncan 59 bridge. I tried a Duncan 59 neck. I had literally, I think, 8 different pickups in this guitar, and I would record it and try to figure out which pickup it was. And you know, then a light switch went off, and I said, you know, what if he still had the original Super 70 that he had for the Shark guitar that he took out, and he put the DiMarzio in the Shark, or he put the Mighty Mite in the Shark, the Mighty Mite 1300, to beef up the Shark to make up for the wood that he cut out. That was the idea behind it. But what if he had this sitting on the bench and he said, I'm just going to borrow Chris Holmes' guitar and I'm going to pop that Super 70 from the original Shark back into the Chris Holmes Destroyer and record that way. So that's how I did it. That's the assumption I made. A 500K pot, Super 70, wired direct to the pot. Pot goes straight out to the jack. There's nothing else in the guitar for wiring. Okay, so it's just super, super simple. And it turns out that, to me, that was the sound. That was the sound for all of these songs that this was used on. I'd bet my life on it, maybe not quite, but I would damn near bet my life on it, Super 70 in the bridge. So we'll go from there, you tell me.
Tora Tora, the Tora Tora reverse intro. It really pretty simple, and it's a lot of, we've known about how he did it for years now. I mean, it was a reverse tape trick. Johnny Bean, he's got a video on YouTube that lays it out there, and I know you can find the actual audio, the forward, the normal recorded audio. Van Halen News Desk posted it, quite a while ago. But this is my version of it, because you still have to record it and then you reverse it. So here's what it sounds like forward. And I give myself 3 passes. That's how I do most of this. I couldn't get the dive right. Here we go. So I think this is the cut I ended up, this one right here is the one I ended up using. And then when I bounce it and everything, I fade these. So then it fades in, so the audio is faded out when I record it here, when I bounce the track. So this is really a simple setup. This is my basic guitar setup. I'll explain this in depth on the other one when I'm doing the guitar stuff. So there it is.
Okay, here it is, my 79 era Frankenstein. I've detailed this guitar, I mean not in this configuration, but it's a Musicraft Northern Ash body, Warmoth maple neck, different than my Musicraft neck when I've got it set up as the 1980, 81 Frank, I guess, with the Floyd Rose and lock and trim. But Warmoth neck, bird's eye maple, 1 3/4 inch wide. Godot tuners instead of the shallers. I do that because of peg height. I mean, period correct, they should be shallers, but that shaller peg height is a little too tall, and the guitar ends up sounding too much like a sitar because I try to keep the down angle from the nut. It's a really minor down angle. They're almost coming straight off, but with the shaller tuners it does come straight off, and you can't make the guitar sound right. It stays in tune great, but it doesn't sound worth the crap when it open strings. What else here? Standard tremolo, Fender tremolo, standard, you know, that pot metal cast block, whatever it is. Dummy pickups. Here's the dummy Telecaster pickup, and then that phenolic red one. It does have a string tree. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, it's got a string tree. It's barely doing anything. There you can see that down angle on the nut for the strings. There's hardly any. And the tuners, the strings are top wrapped on the tuners. That helps keep the guitar in tune when using the standard trem. The pickup I've gotten here is a Halen. He calls it the Origin now. Before he called it the 78, because essentially it's like a Duncan 78. It's a 9K wind with an Alnico 2 magnet. This one is the over potted melted version. I don't know if you can see that, but the bobbins are all toasty melty. Control cavity has got duct tape over it. You know, there's a hole right here. You can dig right in there and feel all the wiring and everything. 250K pot, and that's about it. This guitar was used to meet what I think in all my testing on Tora Part 2, and that's the part after the reverse tape effect. And on loss of control, and you will see on the loss of control video, which I know is silly, but it's you know it was filmed right around that time, that after they recorded the album and before the tour. He's got a covered humbucker in here. He's got and I have a feeling, I theorize that the missing pickup out of the 59 Les Paul, the bridge pickup, I think it ended up in the Frankenstein for a while. I think he was probably just playing and messing with it and seeing if that was going to sound right, because when I believe by the time they got out on tour for the Women and Children First tour in 1980, he had a double cream pickup in here, and I think it was a DiMarzio, and that didn't last too long, from the what you can tell from pictures anyway. And then he went back to a double black pickup, and I don't think it was this one anymore. I think he went to something that was like the Fair Warning pickup that I went through in the Fair Warning video. So it's a slightly hot, overwound kind of asymmetric coil JB kind of thing. But anyway, let me know your comments on that. But I think this is pretty much the configuration of what the Frank was and how it got recorded on the album. And it also might have done the overdubs at the end of Fools, but I don't know that for sure, and I didn't do the overdubs for this part of the video. So anyway, that's it for now. Let me know. right, and this, although Ed didn't use one of these for the 12-string, the electric 12-string in a simple rhyme, this is the only electric 12 I had. Ed used a Rickenbacker, you know, like a semi-hollow or a hollow Rickenbacker 12-string, and I just figured I could do my best to make these pickups sound like those Rickenbacker pickups, and you know, it was the effect of the thing anyway. Anyway, this is my Greco. I love Grecos. If you haven't noticed, they're just superb instruments. You know, this is a set neck. I mean, I like it. I like this better than some of the recent ES 1275s I've played, the Gibsons. So this thing is killer. I love the way it sounds. Love the way it plays. It's just a fine, really nice instrument. It's an old one too. This is one of the lawsuit guitars, but this is what you hear on In a Simple Rhyme.
Okay, here is the logic setup for the In a Simple Rhyme intro. It is not unlike the Women in Love intro on Van Halen 2. Very similar. It's double tracked. This one adds a little bit of an extra thing here. It uses a large diaphragm microphone to pick up the acoustic sound of the electric guitar being plucked, being picked. And it adds a cool little nuance. You can hear the actual pick attack, and I'll demonstrate that between the two. But right here, D1, it's a DI. I ran the guitar, the electric guitar, directly into the board. There's no guitar amp. And then here's DI2. Here's the double track. That's direct input too. So here are the three tracks. First, let's listen to the microphone and see what the mic sounds like in the room. You can hear the clicking of the pick. So that's pretty cool. So now if we unsolo that, let's listen to the first pass, the left side pass. You can see I've got them panned left and right. So this is the left side pass. And I don't know if you're going to pick up on this, but Ed actually played it different each time. I don't think it was intentional. I think he probably messed up, forgot the pattern of his picking. So the second pattern through, he reverses the arpeggiation of it. So it creates a really, really cool effect in that it sounds even fuller through there. Like it's really hard to figure out if you just try to sit down and figure it out, because you physically can't play it. But it makes it in addition to the harmonizing and the double tracking, it makes the part sound even more complex. So I don't know if you'll pick that out or not, but it's there. It happens right there. Right there. So it's that second pattern through. So if we go back to DI1. See, he goes da na 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 na, but on the other side he's going ding 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 ding. So he adds an extra. It's arpeggiated differently. So let's listen to them all together now here. So that pick click really comes through. So that center microphone, or the center channel, center track, whatever you want to call it, it really gives it that extra. You can hear that pick. You can hear the pick on all the strings, and it's a neat little element that gets added to it. So I take these three tracks, I subgroup them, and in that subgroup I've got the NLS summer, like I do on all of my stuff. It's supposed to emulate an SSL console, individual channels, and certain distortions and everything. A little bit of compression. See, very, very little. But it just kind of smooths everything out. through the API as a pass-through again. I don't know if it adds a more analog feel. I think it does, but again, it's a plug-in. It's not truly analog, but it tries to emulate analog. And then I run the Pultec. I mean, what I did for the Van Halen 2, the Women in Love intro. These are my Pultec settings for that. That's all it, I mean, that's as simple as it is. Runs into the harmonizer. Same thing, it's got the NLS channel and it's got the API as a pass-through. But the harmonizer is set up, it's an H910, a little bit of detune above and a little bit of detune below. I mean, it's like micro pitch, and it's mixed in, not super heavy. And a little bit of feedback for just a little bit of swirl. That gives it a little bit of a chorus effect, that 5% on both. And the delay that you hear is 350 milliseconds. And it's all being handled by the H910. So those are the little repeats. Same thing that they did in Women in Love. Okay, here is the Logic setup, and this is for like the main guitar tracks. I got a lot of stuff built into here. This is kind of like my all inclusive, all go to. I got drums down on this side. I got all the guitars, bass, vocals, yada yada yada. But here's the guitar section. So these are my two main microphones coming in from the speaker cabinet. SM57s coming in on Greenie 1, Greenie 2. And you can see I'm running those Waves NLS Summers to try to emulate a console, more analog feel. Again, it's a digital plug-in. Here it is. So it emulates analog. It's still digital, but I think it warms it up a little bit, gives it a little different character. API 550. I did this the way they would have done it back in the day when they were going to tape. I actually used the EQ this time to pull 2 dB out of 10K, and it's a shelf setup, high frequency shelf. So it's 10K and above is down 2 dB. So I'm doing that on both channels. They're identical. I'm running tape emulation on each channel. Very subtle. It barely colors it. It's really hardly even noticeable, but it's enough. It's just they start to build up, and it's more like running to real tape. So I do the same thing for both channels. Both channels are identical. You can see that I've got the fader down on Greenie 2, and that's another one because they sound different. Each greenback sounds different, even though they're mic'd in the same spot. So that's another way you can get tone. This one happens to be a little brighter than this one, so I adjust the brightness by moving that fader in and out. But this is the combination I've used for almost all of this. Well, actually for all of it on this one. Once I got there, everything that I recorded is with this configuration. This pair of channels runs into the guitar bus, NLS Summer up here at API. This one is straight through. There's nothing changing. It's just another way to get hopefully some analog sound. These sends here are like, this is a plate reverb. I've got it shut off because I'm not using a plate reverb. This is the chamber, the Sunset Sound chamber, which I am using. This is the Eventide H910 harmonizer, which I am using very subtly. This album had it all over it. Then I'm using the Sunset Sound room, so it gives us where we've got mic bleed in the room, so it adds a fullness to it. And then this is a tape echo emulation here on this send. So all of these sends are over here. So here's the chamber, here's the echo, here's the plate verb, here's the harmonizer, the H910, and here's the Sunset room. But here's the big deal, okay? These are the Pultec EQs. This is the EQ1A, EQP1A. This one handles the highs and lows, essentially, and you can boost frequencies and you can attenuate frequencies. This one, the MEQ5, is the one where you can cut the mid-range. It's got it's called a dip feature, and that's what this control does. So you see something odd here. On this one, I'm not boosting any frequencies anywhere. All I'm doing is attenuating. I'm cutting on the high end. This is 10K, so I'm maxed out attenuation for 10K and everything above. And on this side, this is the low end, I'm attenuating everything at 100 hertz and below. No boost in the middle, no boost in the bottom, no boost in the top. It's just all right here. I'm cutting everything at 1.5K. Now, I don't know how big the Q is for this, but it's a fairly smooth mid-range cut. And here, I'll demonstrate. So this is with the EQs in. All right, now let me take them out. Here it is. Not a huge difference, is there? This is what took me so long. you're basically hearing. I shut those EQs off, and that's what the cabinet sounds like. So there's not a lot going on for the guitar sound. There's not a lot of doctoring going on. It's just that mid-range cut. It gives it that emptiness in the middle, and you lose kind of that honk, which is what this album sounds like. That's really it. That's kind of the magic of where this comes from, and why I was so stumped for so long, because what oddball EQ settings are those? And the reason I knew I was onto something is that each guitar, as different as they are, and this that I used in this video, each guitar, I didn't have to tweak EQ. I didn't have to do anything. They just sounded like they do on the song. They sounded like what I was trying to emulate without re-EQing anything. So I knew I was onto something once I just stumbled into that Pultec EQ setting.
Wow. So there you have it. Another one in the can. It was quite an undertaking. A lot of stuff, a lot of detail, a lot of different things, a lot of experimentation. And again, I'll say it again, speculation on my part, but I like to think that I'm pretty close. Anyway, it's been fun. I'm going to take a break after this one, perhaps. And anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and thanks for watching all the other ones. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm sure there's going to be more, but I got to take a break after this one. So thanks again. Till next time. See ya.